Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the show. I am your host, the one and the only, Proud 4%er, where I take my time to help you, my viewers, think outside of the 96% Democratic black voting box. Okay, here we go. Forgive you 96%ers, as I ask this rhetorical question. How stupid can you be? I ask because I've talked with you over and over again, and yet you still can't see how the liberals and Democrats operate. Their very concept is that you must be a victim, and as long as you are, they have tremendous power over you and how you think. The fiscal cliff is the current example. They are right now convincing you, and many of you believe it, that the only reason you are having economic problems is because the rich aren't paying enough taxes. So therefore, you are victims, and victims of the rich. The goal of the Democrat Party is to get the Republicans to increase taxes, not because they truly believe that they rich are not paying their fair share, because they are, and I will give you proof today, but rather to get the Republican to, by doing so, admit in essence, they that are cohorts with the evil rich, and therefore are themselves victimizers of you, and that this willingness to increase their taxes will be an admission of guilt. However, it will be a win-win for the Democrats, because if the Republicans do not allow this tax increase, the nation's economy will go over this fiscal cliff, which the Democrats created by their out-of-control spending. They will still be able to blame the rich and the Republicans. As you may know, in his recently released deficit plan, President Obama laid out what he termed as the Buffett rule, named, of course, for Warren Buffett, the famous rich Democrat investor and supporter of Obama, by the way, who is in debt with the IRS for over $1 billion. Sounds like Obama has evil rich friends who want someone else to save you. This rule, as the president defines it, is that people making more than $1 million a year should not pay a smaller share of their income in taxes than middle-class families pay, and is inferring then, of course, that this otherwise happens routinely. That is, the rich are shirking their citizenly duties, while it is the middle class that pays their, by making you the victims of the evil rich, when actually you are the victims of the government's propensity to always spend more than it has, which causes you to suffer. You being victims of the rich is simply political fiction. Let the Proud 4%er give you some real political facts straight from the Tax Policy Center, or the TPC, which is a center-left joint creation of the Brookings Institution and Urban Institute, far from having anything to do with the evil right, an organization that publishes federal tax statistics by income groups, which includes you 96%ers, and these groups are the essential funding source for most of the general functions of government. In other words, this is where the government steals, receives its operating income from. Did you know that in 2010, according to the TPC, Americans in the lowest quintile of income earners, the bottom 20%, paid minus 3.8% of the total federal income tax burden? What this means is that they got more back in income tax credits and the like than they paid into the tax system. So too, those in the second quintile, who paid minus 4.3% of the total federal income tax burden, they too weren't paying into the income tax till, but rather were taking out of it. Now, those in the middle quintile, yes, the victims of the rich, the center of the middle class, with an average income of $44,000, paid 3.9% of the total federal income tax burden, which they paid about $1 of every $25 in income taxes that were paid into the system nationwide. And those in the fourth quintile, or maybe what is considered the upper middle class, whose income ranged from $58,000 to $102,000, they paid 15.1% of the total federal income tax burden. So, according to the TPC, all told, this 80% of Americans, which includes you, my 96%ers, whose income placed them in one of these first 4 quintiles of income earners, combined to pay only 10.9% of the total federal income tax burden. The reality is that this 80% of the citizenry paid about $1 out of every $9 that was paid in federal income taxes nationwide. So get this, you victims of the rich, you know, the ones who supposedly does not pay their fair share, the highest 1% of all income earners, these, the evil very rich, with incomes of at least $1.974 million, paid 16.4% of the total federal tax burden. Essentially, 1 out of every $6 paid in federal income tax was paid by this evil 1% of the citizenry. Get this, my misinformed friends. The top 1% paid more toward the workings of this incompetent, liberal government spending machine than the bottom 80% did. And that's despite the fact you, the bottom 80%, collectively made more than 6 times, yes, 6 times, as much money as the top 1% did. These liberal victim peddlers, which includes President Obama, will not tell you that on average, a given member of the top 1% paid $1.1 million in annual federal income tax, $1,147,616 to be more exact. You victocrats, that's more than 1,000 times what the average person in the middle class paid, which was an average of $1,017. And yet, they have convinced you that the rich are not paying their fair share. Yes, this so-called by the left evil very rich made a lot more money, but certainly not anywhere near 1,000 times as much. The truth is that the evil very rich are already paying a much higher percentage of their income, which is more than 8 times as high in income tax than do you, the middle class, pays. You might ask yourself, why is the proud 4%er is not including himself in the victimized middle class that being held hostage by the evil rich? Is he rich? Far from it, my friends. But what the proud 4%er is, he is one who will not be a victocrat pawn of the left that they use as an excuse to rob from people who have worked hard to obtain the American dream. The American dream that is still available to me, as well as any other individual who dwells within the borders of this, the greatest nation on God's green earth, that these leftist idiots are trying to destroy from within. And if you continue to allow them to use you by injecting this debilitating venom of victimhood directly into your mental arteries of personal self-worth and drive, they will eventually succeed. People, this is class warfare, and this is what the left is truly waging, never ultimately benefits the classes that it is intending to protect, because this type of warfare must have a victim to have a purpose. The concept of being a victim, then, renders one helpless to defend themselves from those who are the victimizer. Those who lead such a movement need you to be in this helpless state, and the more of you there are, the more power they gain, and power is truly all that they desire. Once obtained, will be used against those whom they claim concern for. The proof of this is found in the likes of communist Russia, China, Korea, Cuba, and the other dictatorial third world countries thought the world. 96%ers, this federal fiscal cliff that loom has nothing to do with how much in taxes the rich are paying, but everything to do with those who are inappropriately spending it. It is analogous to any of you who are married, working as head of your household, and bringing in a single income. You hand income over to your spouse, who is designated to operate the household budget, within those given economic means, but she continuously overspends and causes the family to suffer financially. As a result, then in turn come to you and the rest of your family and say, the only reason we are in trouble economically is because you, the evil provider, is not relinquishing your fair share, while you know the accuser is just irresponsibly spending more than you are able to provide. This is what your liberal left thinking administration is doing now and has done for decades. Then blame their irresponsible spending on the rich and the Republicans, who simply say to Democrats, hey, what are you doing? Let me end today with the following question posed to President Obama today by Republican House Speaker Boehner regarding truly solving this impending fiscal cliff, where he asks, where are the spending cuts? Let's be honest, we're broke. You see, Speaker Boehner has had enough of this administration misleading and flat out being dishonest with you, the American public. He tells the president, we are still waiting for the White House to identify what spending cuts that you, the president, is willing to make as part of the balanced approach that he promised to the American people. The fact is, Barack Obama and liberals are not going to cut anything except our military and benefits for our troops, of course. What they really want is more of your money, so they can spend more of your money while pretending to be angry at the rich. 96%ers, stop allowing yourselves to be their collateral damage. Remember, if you tell a lie long and loud enough, people will eventually start to believe it. Well, folks, that's all the time I have in this segment. As always, until we next meet, this again your host, the one and the only proud 4%er, providing you with the necessary tools to cut your way out of the 96% Democratic black voting box.